11:45 a.m. and let's share some market news with you. Sentio is an ethically based asset manager that is focused on delivering superior risk-adjusted returns for their clients, regardless of market conditions. For more info on their Sharia investment products, visit their website, which is www.sentio-capital.com, and start saving towards your investment goals today. Sentio Capital Management. Invest for good. Sentio Capital Management is an authorized financial services provider. 11:45, this is the mid-morning show with me, Julie Ali, and we are now going to be talking about children. We're going to be looking at the issue around free play and why boredom is also healthy for children. To talk to us about this issue is Dr. Ken Resnick. He is a registered educational psychologist, and he's going to talk to us about parenting skills. A very good morning to you, Ken. Lovely to have you on the show after a very long time.
Good morning, Judy, and thank you very much, and lovely seeing you again.
Likewise. So we are now hearing that, I guess it's not something that we're hearing that is something new, but I suppose it's really about parents these days are too structured in the way they rear their children. And this, I should imagine, interferes with their playtime as well.
Look, I don't think it's so much as structured, but there's this new trend of compassionate parenting, where the parent is there for their child. And as a result, there are all sorts of issues that are emerging because their job is not to be their child's friend. Their job is to actually help to equip the child with these skills to take on life. And I'm very pleased with this topic today because what we got to understand, can I go straight into it? Is
Please.
So basically we've got to understand every child is born with passion. Every child is born with a sense of curiosity. They're looking at life and they want to go. They want to go. They ask questions, etc. Now, the parent is guiding them into life. Now, if the parent wants to keep them in a box, that passion eventually goes, their sense of curiosity goes, etc. And there's some worrying trends that are taking place at the moment. And I've observed this in many homes, is that kids have got hundreds of toys, but they get bored after 2 minutes. So what we've got to understand is kids are born with that sense of curiosity. They're born with a brain. They're born to fantasize, to create, to make games, to make up little games and stories. So the trend today is mom plays with the kids. Mom's got to be there for the kids. As a matter of fact, many kids won't play unless mom's in the room. Now, the moment mom's playing with a child, they lose that sense of curiosity because they're being entertained. Mom might be suggesting games they should be playing, etc. Instead of them being left alone, kids are born to play on their own. As long as they're in a secure environment and mom is there and they're feeling safe, they can create all sorts of imaginary things, from playing with a doll's house, inventing little characters that come to the tea party, creating a whole scenario. Little boys could be playing cowboys and crooks or playing little hide and seek. They can do all of these things. But the trend today is they're not doing that. I have a friend whose little girl, 7, was given a beautiful doll's house. This child didn't know what to do with it. She looked at it. She couldn't think of one game, to imaginary game that she could play with that doll's house. And I've spoken to many parents, and this is one of the very worrying trends that is taking place. Nobody's noticed. So as a result, kids are losing that sense of creativity. Why? What you just mentioned, boredom. Boredom is ridiculous. How can a child be bored? I mean, there's so much that they could think of and create, and now they're bored. Why are they bored? They're bored because they're wanting to be entertained. They're wanting mommy to play with them. They're wanting to watch the TV or to play on some or other device. Now, the moment we're doing that, the kid feels entitled. Their creativity goes out the window. And so what is happening with COVID, because a lot of kids have stayed at home, they've obviously, many of them have got on their parents' nerves. And the parents eventually said, look, just go and watch TV. Just get out of our clutches at the moment, watch TV. So the moment they go and watch TV, all their creativity disappears, because there's nothing creative about just watching Cartoon Network on TV. Nothing when they've finished watching are they going to say, wow, I got a good idea. I'm going to build this and I'm going to build that and draw this, etc. And as a result, they're not learning. So what is actually happening now is that a lot of schools, especially in the pre-primary, they're going to school with this little gap. In other words, they've had 8 or 9 months not at school. Now they've got to go into grade 1. So there's a gap in their development in terms of where they should be, their social skills, their ability to be creative, to behave appropriately, etc. And going to school with that gap, how are we going to close that gap? And that means they're going to go into grade 2 with a gap. Teachers are taking huge strain because with a lot of parents, especially with the private schools, it's been left to the teachers to sort the child out. And it's not the teacher's job. So parents,
Ken,
yes.
Let me ask you this question,
Sure.
and I know that you're an expert in the field of ADHD.
Yeah.
If we prevent our children free playtime, allowing them to, really get a bit bored, and you're going to explain to me when and how do we know that the child is bored, and then we allow them this free time to be creative. Is that one of the reasons why we have been seeing a lot of ADHD?
No question.
Or is that, okay, carry on.
It's definitely connected. So remember, boredom, it was only when you were a child. Could you imagine yourself at 5 saying, Mom, I'm bored? It's a new common trend with kids. They are born to be creative. They should be put with the crayons. They should be put with a little, something they can build, few dolls with a little doll's house so they can create a scenario, put on a little play that they can present to their parents, all on their own. But you'll find that they're not doing that because mommy's got to be there for them. And as I said, even if mom sits in the room, then they'll ask questions. Mommy, what should I do? Should I do this or should I do this? And as a result, what is happening, you talk about ADHD, a lot of children are going back to school because they have to rather than they want to. But the children are getting the message, the tacit message that, my boy, you don't have to listen in class because when you come home, somebody's going to help you. So they're not engaging with the content of the actual learning material because why should they when somebody's going to help them at home? So at the end of the day, we're encouraging a sort of a helplessness, a sort of an opting out if the going gets tough, where you've got children coming home and they're saying, Mom, please help me with my maths when they haven't even opened the book. So this opting out means that the only thing they enjoy doing, ADHD kids can do things, but only what they want to do. They can play on a PlayStation for hours. They can sit and watch a TV gormlessly for hours. But the moment they've got to concentrate to do something that requires their imagination and a bit of effort, we've got a problem. Because you must remember, learning is a choice, reading is a choice. Why are kids not choosing? Why are kids choosing not to read and not to learn? And this opting out of school. I'll give you an example. I was at a school the other day, and the principal was at a loss. The dad was tying the shoelace, a very expensive private school, was tying the shoelace of his 8-year-old. And the principal just said to him, you should let the child do that on his own. The dad said, it's my child. If I need your help, I'll ask. I'll do what I want with my child. Now, a little thing like that leaves the school flummoxed because a kid of 8 definitely should be doing their shoelaces on their own. And parents are doing all of these things for children that the child should be doing themselves. A 4-year-old can dress themselves. A 4-year-old can sleep in their own bed. They can walk to the toilet alone. They can eat with a knife and fork properly. They can say please and thank you. And all of these things we're not focused on. And if I can just mention why there's so many impulsive kids today. There's a huge number. Because kids are born impulsive, self-centered, they're only about themselves. So if they're going to, now our job is to get them less impulsive and to consider others. But why do they stay impulsive? Kids don't have manners today. They'll go to their mom and just take the cell phone out of her bag. They'll go and just switch on the TV. They'll take something out of the fridge without asking. Now, manners slow kids down. Mom, may I use your cell phone, please? My boy, in 5 minutes, when mommy's finished, she'll let you play it. So he's got to wait. But kids can't wait today. They've got to have it.
Okay.
And
what is that? Ken, what is that teaching them when mom, says, in 5 or 10 minutes. What skill are we teaching the child? Despite the fact that that might be a naggy child, and you'll just have to live with that nagging for the next 5 minutes. That's the one issue. Also, let's look. When you spoke about the 8-year-old that didn't tie his shoelaces, that's really about the parent struggling to let go, but
Yes.
disadvantaging the child going forward. So can you respond to those two issues?
Yeah. So the one, let's go to the shoelaces. This is the message parents are being given. Help your child. Be there for your child. They're not seeing it as an opting out. So they involved in their child all the time, but doing far too much for their child. And that means the child, the moment the game gets tough, they can't do it. They don't take the challenge. So that becomes a very big problem. And sorry, what was the first part of your question again?
I'm talking about parents struggling to let go, and then also the issue around what are we teaching the child? Patience. When we say you can't have the cell phone now, and we say in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and the child continues nagging, but you as mom digs in your heels and decide that child is going to wait for that 5 or 10 minutes. What skill are we teaching them, or what lesson are we teaching them by doing that?
We're stopping impulsivity, where they believe if they want something, they can get it. You're going to go into society, and that's all you're going to do. Interrupt the teacher, go and take the teacher's pen on the table without asking them. They're growing up without manners. They're not understanding that nothing belongs to them except their toys, which means they've got to ask. So we're trying to get them to behave appropriately in the bigger world, because that sort of behavior is not acceptable in the bigger world. And we're getting them to slow down. Mom doesn't even have to say 5 minutes. But if the kid keeps on nagging, all a mom says, I tell you what, my boy, one more nag means you don't want my phone. And that's it.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
One more nag, he's saying to you, I don't want your phone. So you're not even shouting at him. So
Right.
you've told him 5 minutes, and you don't want that nagging. And
on the opposite, yeah. Carry on, Ken.
You're making it their problem. The other thing is that lots of kids today in speech therapy, far too many. Why? Because they whine. Mommy, I mean, they're not talking properly. Now, all a parent has to say to a kid, listen, I've gone deaf. Do you want to go and practice in your room and then come and ask me properly, or do you want to ask me properly now? Simple little exercise like that, if parents would do that, would help, I'm sure, halve the number of kids that are in speech therapy. Because at the end of the day, this is what's happening. They're not speaking properly. But parents are given the idea, and I saw this on one of these compassionate parenting websites, that when a child whines, he's only trying to express himself. I mean, what garbage. You can't go through life. If a child can speak properly, he must speak properly. So unfortunately, parents are not being given any tools. And you've got, so what was the abnormal in our day is the norm today. And that's the problem. My child does it a lot.
In the next 2 minutes, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have, and I'm not sure if that terminology is still relevant in this day and age, but you had the helicopter moms, or the tiger moms. Is that still a phenomenon in this day and age? And very quickly, for the benefit of our viewers, just unpack it for us.
Very quickly, it's not a phenomenon, it's a pandemic. It is mind-blowing. It's a murder one offense amongst the parenting styles, because when we overprotect, we keep them in a bubble. Their world gets bigger and bigger. We do everything for them. They can't even choose what clothes they want to wear. They can do nothing without mommy's permission. Mommy's got to be there. If they go and play somewhere, they've got to phone, or mom's got to phone them all the time. So mom is onto them all the time. So what happens? Their social skills get affected, because they're never allowed out, or they're never allowed to sort of mix too much with kids. They grow up without being decisive, because the parents are making all the decisions in terms of what they're wearing. That indecisiveness means they become quite vulnerable when it comes to any social skills. And I've observed that in the remedial classes, all those kids, I'm pretty in Malay, or 90% of them are overprotected. And an overprotected kid opts out. He's scared. He can't work on his own. He believes without mommy's help, or without somebody being there, that's it. But when that bubble bursts and they're 16, they're totally in it. socially. And they really end up, I don't know where they end up, but they definitely end up not achieving, with no grit, no determination, and basically helpless.
Well, Ken, that's all we have for today, but we must get back together again and maybe talk about parents who are very competitive themselves and expect their children to be so as well.
Sure.
Fiercely competitive and must win all the time. So let's leave that for our next interview and see how that compares with the overprotective child. But lovely talking with you once again. You go well and be safe.
Thank you, Judy, and all the best to you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. It
Okay.
is exactly 12 o'clock, time for an ad break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Marlena Kruger about something called nomophobia. Interesting. Do stay with us.